You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, Internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now. 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
Welcome to We Don't Have Cookies, Martial Law Edition, with your host, Jason Marshall.
Hey guys, thanks for downloading the show. As you just heard, this is a special martial law edition of the podcast. For those who don't know, martial law is basically the people's court or the Judge Judy version of the show, where if somebody has a problem with somebody else, they come on the show and I decide who is right and who is wrong. Not only who is right and who is wrong, but what the punishment should be for the loser. If you have a case you would like to bring to the court, you can do so by emailing Jason at WeDon'tHaveCookies.com and I'll check it out. I got a good one for you today, so let's get to it.
All rise. The Honorable Jason Marshall presiding.
Thank you, Bailiff Maya. The defendant today is ChooChooStu, who recently made a horribly insensitive and divisive video where he played guitar and sang "We Don't Give a Damn" for the whole state of Michigan, all while disrespectfully wearing a Detroit shirt, which you can see by going to facebook.com/WeDon'tHaveCookies. The plaintiff is a resident of Michigan. He has a professional MMA record of 101 wins, 19 losses, and 7 draws. He is a UFC super fight champion, the only Triple Crown UFC champion, and has been inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. It's Dan the Beast Severn. Both parties have agreed to respect my ruling and to fulfill the punishment no matter what. Stu, you're being charged with insulting the absolutely wonderful residents of Michigan, of whom I have nothing but the utmost respect for. How do you plead?
I plead not guilty, Your Honor.
Okay. Dan, the floor is yours for the opening statement.
Stu, you plead not guilty. Come on now. You sing this silly song on top of this. You're guilty as charged, my friend. All the evidence is there.
Yeah, we have a video of you singing the song, Stu.
I think singing the song is a bit of an exaggeration there.
Well, yeah, I agree on that. That was not singing whatsoever. But that's a different crime in itself. Let's just stick to the fact that you just what you did, the image that you portrayed to the great state of Michigan.
Yeah, you came all the way over here from London, England, and then you insult the good people of Michigan. I think it's just despicable, Stu. There's video evidence. How can you say you're not guilty?
I can say I'm not guilty because I was coerced into doing it.
I don't understand how that could be possible, Stu.
I didn't do it under my own free will. I had a proverbial gun to my head when I was doing it.
Stu, I know I'm supposed to be impartial here, but as the judge, I need you to take you need to be a man, take responsibility for your actions, Stu. What you did was horrible. I can't stand behind that.
How can you say that, Jason? How can you say that? Listen, this is not Mama Kate I'm dealing with now. You haven't dragged me here to defend myself against Mama Kate, who I've beaten twice. I think there's only been 2 martial laws. Both of them have been me so far. And now you've dragged me into a third one.
You're a 3-time offender, Stu.
Yeah, that's that. What does that say about your character here right now, Stu? It's just 3 times.
And twice, I think, well, I was guilty on 50% of the time I've been not guilty. And you've dragged me into this court with this big guy here, this big bruiser, as we'd call him. I don't see how I'm standing much of a chance here with this guy.
Well, Stu, it has nothing about the physical size here right now there, Stu. What it has to do with is what you sang, what came out of your mouth. And that's what is on trial here.
I can say that I have actually been to Michigan, so I am entitled to voice an opinion, even though that opinion wasn't necessarily mine.
Well, it was a horrible opinion, Stu, and it was very insensitive.
Yes, the state motto for this great state of Michigan, it's known as the Water Winter Wonderland.
Well, yep. I mean, the bridge was nice. Yep, it was lovely going across to Canada, I must admit.
Yes, it's the Mackinac Bridge that bridges the Upper Peninsula with the Lower Peninsula. Once you go past the Upper Peninsula, yes, then you go into Canada. I'll give you a little bit of a geography lesson here. A little bit more trivia here for you, that the state of Michigan, when you include the Upper and Lower Peninsula, actually has more coastline than any other state in the United States.
I'm sure it's a lovely place.
Well, the sad part, though, is it does not give you enough warm weather for the cold weather, in my humble opinion.
And although I did sing that, I heard the beer was good.
Well, no, again, you're confusing Michigan with Canada.
All right.
See, Michigan and U.S. beer is at a much lower content. A lot of people that live here in the state of Michigan, they like to go over and party to Canada because, based on percentage alone, the beer has a whole lot more higher alcohol content. and also the drinking age used to be younger as well.
Yeah, that's a crime that they've upped the age.
Well, Stu, do you have any closing arguments that you would like to present that would try to explain your actions?
Well, as I say, I was dragged into this. I was summoned.
Stu, don't this. You
I
can't.
Was summoned,
this isn't
Jason.
About blaming somebody else. This is about prosecuting you.
I think the person that should be in the dock here is actually Jason Marshall, and not me. I'm just the innocent bystander in all of this. I was just Jason's puppet.
Stu, it's still up to you to make wise decisions. I mean, a lot of people can't blame other people for your own mistakes.
We make our own choices in life, Stu.
Exactly.
We do, but Jason, I think if I go down, I think you should be going down with me.
As the judge, I want to let you know that all of that, where you threw me under the bus, which I can't believe you would do, will be edited out of the podcast. And, I'm sorry, but we're out of time for your side of closing arguments. And Dan, you have the floor for as long as you want.
Well, I don't know. I'm going to basically be repeating myself. The fact that to sing this heinous song, using the word even sing, is a travesty in itself. Combination of stepping on a cat's tail and a few other things probably would have sounded that much more lovelier. But the crime is the fact that all these vocals came out of Stu's mouth, and I can't see it any other way but as guilty as charged.
I'm going to leave and go to my chambers to consider what I've heard, and I will return with my ruling.
Notes I'm wearing my Detroit t-shirt while playing this. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. My guitar might be out of tune because I haven't played it for a long, long time. Don't give a damn about the whole state of Michigan. The whole state of Michigan. The whole state of Michigan. We don't give a damn about the whole state of Michigan because we're from Ohio. We're from Ohio. O-H. We're from Ohio. Hi-ho. Don't give a damn about the whole state of Michigan because we're from Ohio. We're from Ohio. We're from Ohio. Don't give a damn about the whole state of Michigan because we're from Ohio.
All rise.
Thank you, Bailiff Maya. I would like to remind both parties that prior to coming on the show, they have agreed to uphold my ruling, and I rule in favor of Dan Severn. Stu?
Oh, no.
Stu? I'm sorry.
This is totally wrong. I've never been in this sort of situation before, and I've just been set up, hung, drawn, and quartered by
No.
I thought was a friend of mine.
No, let me interrupt. Let me interrupt you here. No, Jason. That says, I'm sentencing Stu, not you. Stu, you're getting off the show.
I'm not getting off the show. I will be here till the end, mate.
No, Bailiff Maya, get him out of here. I don't want Stu to come back. You're finished. Or in the words of our president when he was on his previous show, you're fired.
Your Honor, I think you have to overrule this man.
I'm sorry, Stu.
There's no way on earth, and I'm sure even Mama Kate would back me up on this one.
I'm sorry, Stu. Bailiff Maya, please escort Stu out of the court.
I protest. Is there any way of protesting? And
you'll have to file an appeal. I'm sorry, Stu.
An appeal's going in, I can assure you.
Court is adjourned.
She said she was done. She said she was done with me. But the end was something I couldn't comprehend. Oh, see, sometimes you've got to take the bull by the horns and the monkey by its tail. The giraffe by its neck, and I don't know what you'd grab on a whale. But I do know this. She'll be back to me someday, 'cause I stole her insulin. My God, yeah, I stole her insulin. My Lord, well, she'll be sorry. She said it was over when she's deep inside her diabetic coma. And I'll give you all the insulin you need. Come back to me now. Come back to me now. Come back to me now. Now I've got your insulin. You need your insulin. I've got your insulin.
That's great.
Yeah, there you go. Like I said, it's character, Professional Wrestling 101, become a character. Jason, some of the stuff that I was pulling off because I was working for the WWF, not full time because the average contract was 187 dates a year. I only worked 60 dates a year for them, but I was the first and still, to my knowledge, the only unrestricted athlete ever under contract, including WCW and ECW. Those are the other two big organizations that were existing at the time. And I was working for the NWA as it was, and I was working for 35 different promoters in the NWA organization, on top of working for the Ultimate Fighting Championship, who I was also on no restrictions with them. I could work for any other fight company. When I would tell people that I would be on the road sometimes 20 some odd days a month, I was on the road for 20 some odd days a month. And there would be some mornings when I'd be waking up, I'd be rubbing the sleep out of my eyes. I'd be looking around and thinking, okay, where am I at? And what is my function tonight? And then literally I would have to look at my planner to find out, okay, I'm going to be professional wrestling. Oh, no, I'm going to be climbing into a cage later tonight. Oh, no, I'm actually going to be working with kids, teaching amateurs. No, I'm going to be working with law enforcement. It literally absolute ludicrous, but it was the opportunities that were just flying in left and right. And you got to make bank when you possibly can.
Yeah, I can't imagine what that schedule had to have been like. Because included in all that, you still have to train and work out. And
but see, that's where there's the irony. I only have in a 20-year career, I only had 2 training camps for my cage fighting. My first in UFC 5, I did 5 days, an hour and a half a day, down in a professional wrestling ring in Lima, Ohio, with Al Snow and 2 other professional proteges. It was the biggest joke in the world. I only ever did 2 true training camps, once for 32 days, once for 35 days, and that was it. The rest of the time, I taught classes. And I would say that most of my opponents ought to be ashamed of themselves that they let somebody who was older than their father beat them, lifetime chemical free, and wasn't even training, was just teaching classes. Half the time I was hiking up my trunks to hide my love handles.
That's incredible. Watching you, I would have had no idea.
But see, no one knew that. To me, it's like the only reason more and more people are. I think this new generation of people are learning more about me and what I actually accomplished. There will, Jason, and there's no doubt in my mind, one day there will be a movie about what I've done. I just hope that I'm around at the time that it happens. I can actually put in my 2 cents worth for what I did at the ages. Who starts a cage fighting career just before turning 37 years of age? Because the UFC never had my age correct in the first place. I just kept, every time they asked me, they screwed up the first couple of times. I just started giving them just different numbers just to have fun with them.
That's hilarious.
Oh, it is. Well, the first time I met Big John, it's in the cage. John's very professional. He's former LAPD. He comes up to you and he's very he has his routine down. He comes up to you. He speaks to you as the athlete. And then as he gets to the end of what he's saying to you, he always asks, are there any questions? And then he turns from you to your corner person. So, the first time I'm going through this, he gets to that point and he goes, are there any questions? Well, nothing comes to my mind. So, but as he's turning away, goofy thought comes to my mind. And I said out loud, I go, where did all that money go that my parents paid for piano lessons? And he said he heard it. But when he looked back at me, he thought, well, it couldn't come from me because I had my game face on. And then the second time, I'm prepared for a shtick. The second time, he comes in, he's doing the exact same thing, repeatability. And as soon as he gets, are there any questions? I look at him right in the face and go, I wouldn't be doing this if you just simply give me the winning lotto ticket numbers. And he is like dumbfounded. His wife, Elaine, was the travel consultant for the UFC at that time. He's telling her that I'm crazy and stuff like this. I get to know the family, and very well. I go out to dinner with them a few different times, stuff like this. When John, when I do all these interviews, he's like, "Well, man, Dan, then you've been in all these fights." I go, "No," I go, "John, I've never been in a single fight in my life." I said, "But I have been a competitor my entire life." There's a different mindset. I'm gonna shake your hand before. I'm gonna shake your hand after. No hard feelings for what's going to go down. I would have never pursued boxing or kickboxing because I don't possess those skills. Oh, you allow me to grapple and wrestle, use my wrestling skills? Oh, game on. And I simply know that I watch the way people train. My gift is physical mechanics, and that's why I do all the different things that I do. And I'll probably do, well, one of my goals here, because it's the reality is I'm heading towards 60 years of age. I don't look like the 60-year-old guy, and I don't act like one. I could still put some unique things together. For example, I wanted to put together what I was going to call the turd tour. There's well, you got to use, again, you're marketing to D-Generation X. So you have to kind of slap their face around there a little bit to get them with that little shock and awe. I don't drop. I'm not a swearer, but if I call a person a turd, my guys know that I really don't like that person if I refer to them as a turd. But then put on this turd tour was, there are so many bad professional level organizations across the United States that I wanted to do 52 matches in 1 year, one a weekend. And I was going to wear shirts, turd 1, turd 2, all the way to 100, and literally just make a mockery of the quality. I would only, what training would I be doing? I'd be still just teaching classes at my training facility, and just watch a couple videos on them just to find out, am I going against more of a grappler or more of a striker, and just do 52 matches in 1 year and then call it quits. I could even still do that now. And I'll pass all the physical requirements because when I was supposed to do that last match with Shamrock, basically last year, I had to go through additional because of my sheer age. I had to have additional things done, EKG in the heart and stuff like this, and then a brain scan there or CAT scan, and just make sure there's no dark spots on the brain and things of nature. But the most interesting aspect to me of all the medical things passed with flying colors. The hardest part was going before 7 different athletic commissioners and basically being cross-examined. And they did, and I actually complimented them afterwards how they did their due diligence in the sense that, are you this aging, broke athlete that needs the money? Are you aspiring, losing record in the whole 9 yards? And they looked into all things. They're like, well, you have phenomenal record. You've won almost most of your matches and stuff like this. They all boil down to why. And I go, why? I said, I really have no reason to climb into a cage with anyone else. I don't want to climb in a cage with any of these young bucks because, my skill set has diminished. I mean, if I'd be a fool to say it hasn't. I said, I would go up against someone else of a closer vintage to me. Sure. And then I said, now you got 2 geriatrics out there. So, it won't be as, I don't think it'll be all that devastating at that point in time. I said, especially if we had to put drug testing, because that's all part of what I wanted was to know that I would still fight a Ken Shamrock, but I want to have him drug tested the day of competition so that I would expose him for yet failing a drug test once again.
And
he's already failed, I think 3 times he's failed so far.
Wow. That's
and the last one, now he did fail for steroids, but he also failed for opiates, which basically, which just means he's probably on some kind of painkillers or something like that.
Yeah, that's a shame because back in the day, well, he was probably doing it back then too, but he was a heck of a competitor in there.
Jason, I will never give him credit for that because the reality is this: when you actually look at his record, he has actually a horrible record. The only person ever legitimized him was me in a match I should have never done. When the first time that the UFC wanted me to do a super fight with him, I even questioned him. I go, how is this a super fight? I said, Ken Shamrock has never won anything. He's never even been a runner-up in anything. And I go, because I'm dealing, realize I've dealt with 3 different ownerships, and I haven't quite dealt with this 4th ownership yet. I'm dealing with some of the people. Probably will something happen after the first year, but I go, you guys don't understand athletics. I said, you're just caught up into a steroided physique. I said, if that's what you want, then why don't you guys go grab a bunch of bodybuilders and put them out in trunks, and you'll get what you're looking for. If Ken was natural, he'd probably weigh about 185, 195 pounds. I've been around steroids my entire life. I just don't choose. It's kind of like the same way it took my high school years and in my first few years in college, stuff like that. Marijuana's everywhere, LSD's everywhere. But am I partaking of it? No, I'm around it. I'm taking care. I'm the caretaker of various roommates and things of that nature. Make certain that they're not going to drown in a pile of puke and stuff like that.
Do you think that's why he made it into the WWE and had that fit so well? It wasn't so much because of what he accomplished as a fighter, but more that he had the reputation as a fighter, but had that look.
It was both. The fact that he's bringing in the thing that. See, he did not promote the fact that he was involved with the UFC. See, like, for example, when I came in, the WWF was actually negotiating with both Ken Shamrock and I at the same time. Ken went in almost 1 year before me because I stuck to my guns of non-exclusivity. The WWF did not know how old I was, and I wasn't going to tell them. But it never came up in conversation. But they just knew that Jim Ross was doing a lot of the negotiation with me. I initially met with him and Vince and stuff like this. Vince just kept Jim Ross on me, and Jim's a good old boy from Oklahoma and stuff like this. He actually liked my very blunt to the point candor on the things. And I just told him, Jim, I go, Jim, I said, you're asking for a 2-year contract. I am not going to pull the plug on everything I'm doing and give up 2 years of my life to you guys. And then all of a sudden you guys don't like the color of my hair. And now I have to restart and re-engage my life. I said, there's not enough money that you offer me that's going to retire me from that point. I said, you'll have one of the best people you could probably ever have to work with. My word means an awful lot. I'm old school. I said, my handshake and my word means more than what a contract will. And I said, but that's the worst industry I've ever been involved in. But, and literally, they gave me everything that I was looking for. And even when the contract was signed, I'm in the office and I'm with Vince, stuff like this. And we're just, talk about just various types of things. Well, a couple of different time frames kind of came up. And then Vince all of a sudden kind of looks inquisitively at me, goes, well, how old are you? And I said, well, 48, at that time. And Vince turns right back to Jim Ross, goes, well, Jim, he goes, who's our oldest rookie ever? And he points straight back, and Jim Ross points straight back to me, he goes, Dan. But, like I said, I did not look my age nor did I act it. But I have had financial groups approach me saying, we'll take care of all of your expenditures. We just want a certain percentage of the winnings. But part of the agreement is we want you to get with our doctors. Because of your age, your testosterone is probably here, and there. We'll get you with our doctors, get you on this, and this. They basically tell me that at my size, they could probably get me up to about 315 to 3.25. I'd have probably an additional 35 to 45% of strength and power. Jason, I already possessed the skill set of strength and power. If I had another 35 to 40, I would have been pulling body parts off of individuals. I would have been beaten with the bloody stumps. But I always tell people that I can look at myself in the mirror and know that I have achieved all my success on my own ability. Matter of fact, my greatest tool is my mind, in the sense that I'm not training. So, the fact is I have to will myself to go beyond the barriers. When these coaches are yelling, you got to give 110%, you got to give me 125%, you got to give me 150%. I want to turn to these coaches and go, Coach, you know nothing about math, do you? I said, there is 100%, and most people probably never flirt with 90. And I said, and then there's 101, when you have gone beyond your body's expectations and you go into a whole new realm altogether. I've actually, on just a few occasions, I have experienced that 101% where you actually go into a whole new dimension. And I go, and then right here, this coach is talking, you don't have a clue what you're talking about. We'll save this. We'll save this stuff. This is good stuff for a different time.
And that other time will be next week. So be sure to subscribe to the podcast now, wherever you are listening to this, so you don't miss it. And if you're listening on Facebook or Twitter, you can download this podcast no matter what kind of device you have. If you're using an iPhone or a Mac, you can just go to Apple Podcasts. We're available there. If you're an Android user, we're in Google Play Music. We're also available on iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, SoundCloud, all those places. We're available anywhere podcasts are available. So make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening. Tell your friends about the show and leave a review. See you next time.
You're fired.
All right, we're back. And joining me right now is one of the most interesting guests I've probably ever had on the show. I'm very excited to bring her in because I've been wanting to have her on the show for, I don't know, a year or so now. I follow her on Twitter. I follow her on Periscope, and I'm subscribed to her podcast, Karen and Kara Can Read. And all of those things I'm doing, you should be doing too. It's comedian Karen Rontowski. How you doing?
Great. Thank you for having me. That's a high pressure intro. Unless your other guests have been terrible, then it's fine. Yes. And Paranormal Karen, I'm learning to plug things. Paranormal Karen, the YouTube series, because that's the TV show I watch that I deserve.
I'm so glad that you were able to come on. I'm sorry, listeners, you don't know this side, but it was kind of a headache for her to do the show. So thank you for putting up with everything. Coming on.
It was no problem at all. No, it's perfect. There's always something new that I have to, I believe it was Skype that we had to add to my phone. And now I know. Now I know. And Microsoft is going to listen to me, can listen to all my conversations, because I have a tendency to get a little paranoid. But that's just since the other day when I thought the aliens had implanted a tracking device in me. But it was only a loose Frito in my underwear. So it's okay so far. But a lot going on already, right?
Oh, yeah. That's why I was so excited to have you in here. But you're not just a regular comedian. You do psychic stand-up, too, which is pretty cool. You want to let everybody know how that works?
Sure, I do. So I was on the road for about 24 years, and I have the most exciting life. But I was like, I got to be home more. This is too much. I was doing about 32 weeks a year on the road.
Wow.
And I've been a ghost hunter. I've been ghost hunting all my life, or I guess all my adult life, I should say, because there's no 5-year-old ghost hunters. But not willingly.
Maybe there should be.
There should be. I know. They made that be interesting. And I always read tarot cards, and I sort of started to merge the two. And I read tarot from the stage, and that led to my show called Psychic Stand-Up, where comics would do comedy, and then I'd read for them. And then, of course, I had my buddy Kira Sultanovich on, and then she had me on her podcast. And it turns out she's got the psychic thing happening. So that led to our other podcast. So, yes, we're doing readings and making people laugh at the same time. But why not? It doesn't have to be spooky, right?
That's right. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that was the next thing I wanted to talk about, was your podcast with her. And man, it's so much fun to listen to. I really like it when you have somebody back and they're like, man, once I finished talking to you, X, Y, and Z happened. And it was along the timeline.
Oh, good to hear, because you know what? We were thinking about that. We have to have follow-up shows. It's getting even more interesting. The more we do it, the more we learn. And it's called Karen and Kira Can Read. And when sometimes I'll have a comic on, we're like, oh, this person is high energy, and this is going to just be laughs and da-da-da. And they'll come in, and it's the exact opposite. And like Kira and I have to work really hard. And then sometimes it'll get into something sad, and it'll take like a turn, you know what I mean? Like sometimes it gets kind of intense, and then sometimes it's just never even what we expect, which is what makes it kind of interesting and off the wall a little bit, Have
you ever done a reading that surprised you, where you didn't really want to tell the person what you saw on the cards because it was just a little too much?
Yeah, what I've learned though is that happens to me a lot when people ask about their marriage. And a lot of my clients, because I read during the day, that was the business I opened up so I could stay home, and now they're pretty compatible. But 90% of my readings are over the phone. And I like that actually better than in person, because I can't see their reaction. And so there's no, you know what I mean, misinterpretation, or they can't say, oh, you saw it, When someone asked me about their marriage, I had to learn to just do what the cards say. And you just have to go with your gut and what they're telling you, because sometimes people will be like, hey, so I just been married 6 months. What's my marriage look like? And you're like, oh, no. And then you kind of say, well, there's a lot of work to be done. And then you almost hear them go, I know. Or you know what I mean? Like but very rarely is it off. I do remember one girl I read for, she had a new boyfriend and everything was perfect. And I was like, well, something's going to happen here. And it actually disappointed her. And she sent me the email later. It said, that really disappointed me. And I said, I'm an old softie. I was like, do you want a new reading for free? Or, I felt bad. And sure enough, 6 months later, it all happened exactly what you said. And
oh, wow.
So I gave her an extra 15 minutes, and we kind of went into some things. And by the end of it, she had complete clarity and was ready. Her and this guy actually found a way to get back on track. But sometimes we have to come apart to come back together. I remember the last guy I was seeing, I did my own cards on it, and it was like, you're walking away from him. And I was like, no way, not happening. You guys are wrong. And then sure enough, a month later, I was like, what? And I was gone.
I was going to ask if you ever use the cards to help you, like if there's a new neighbor moves in and you're just like, man, I wonder what they're like, but I don't really want to talk to them. Or if you ever do things like that.
I've never had that, but yeah, I do. Some people won't read their own cards, but I think if you're really open and don't keep doing layouts till it turns out to be what you want, and if you're really ready to hear the answer, here's a really weird story. So there's a card called the Tower card, which is for people that don't know tarot. It's literally a building being struck by lightning and people flying out of the building. And it's a very destructive card. And it was my first time ever on Letterman. And that card came up for my show.
Ooh.
And I was like, oh, I'm not looking anymore. They fly me to New York. I get to New York. I get a call from the people at Letterman and they say, we're so sorry. We're going to fly you back. We had to bump you. And I was like, oh, maybe that was it. Then the next day, the booker called me and goes, thank God you weren't here. We had the worst crowd in the history of the show. And the guy that you got bumped for just died. And I was like, oh. So then you have to remember the meaning of that card, which is getting things on track. In other words, if something's going wrong, it's the universe coming in. It's when something bad happens that we think it's bad, but we don't realize, oh, that was really good. And then I was like, I didn't read till after I was on. I was like, that's enough.
Yeah, I've had something like that happen to me recently where I was very upset with somebody. It turned out that the reason I was upset with them and them not coming through for me was a good thing because somebody else came in and everything was so much better and it was nice. I think
right. That's the universal attitude we got to have, that it's all happening for a reason.
Yeah. And looking back, I was actually glad that it did happen, not just because I got a better deal somewhere else, but because it did ingrain that lesson that you might be mad right now, but things are going to work out. Just kind of relax.
Yeah. Somebody, last night, I was flying home last night and I was having a heart attack on the plane, something different, about my dog was with me. And, this is I don't know why I even started this story. It's such a strange story. My dog is taking heart pills. So they have diuretics and heart pills. So he has to pee all the time. And and usually I can get him off the plane and get back on when it's stuck. I have the TSA pre, get up, let him go to the bathroom. And I couldn't. It was going to be like 13 hours and I was losing my mind.
Ooh.
And my friend sent me a text and it was of a guy meditating and it said, just relax. Nothing is under control. And I thought, that's exactly right. That we might as well let it happen. What is it?
I got a question for you about your podcast. This happened, it was a few episodes ago. You were talking to somebody about Ouija boards, and you said that they were very bad and people shouldn't use them because you could pull something through that you don't want to. Later in that show, you were talking to them about mediums that can talk to people on the other side. I don't really know a lot about that kind of stuff. This was one of those times where it was like, man, I wish they had a phone number I could call in and ask questions. Because I was wondering why it would be bad to use a Ouija board to talk to somebody, but to go through a medium is okay.
Excellent question. So I'll differentiate the two things that I do, like a psychic and a tarot reader, which I do tarot. And I guess I'm a psychic. I don't know. Yeah, they're all the same category. We are looking into the future and reading cards. Mediums talk to dead people. Okay. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they very rarely overlap. Sometimes I can get a little through the cards, but they're really two different skills. What people don't realize is on the other side, as we'll say, people always think, well, there's ghosts and there's demons. And there is so much between there. There's all kinds of, I guess I could say, entities between there, whether you want to talk about aliens or attachments or other beings. So a medium should know who they're talking to. They should be able to identify the person. They should know if it's human. When you start with a Ouija board, it's sort of opening a vortex. And some people use Ouija boards and they don't have any trouble and they swear by them. And probably 90% of the audience has had an experience with a Ouija board that went fine. But it's actually called a speaking board. That's how they were first used. And they send out a very low vibration and they attract a lot of things. And so you could be on a Ouija board thinking you're talking to a little girl, and it's actually not a little girl. It's actually something much darker and maybe more powerful. The good part is these things cannot access or come through unless they have your permission. But they might be like, oh, I'm a little girl and I died young and I used to live here and I just want to look around once. Can I come through? And if someone says yes, you just said yes to you don't know what. And people end up with things talking to them, paranormal stuff going crazy in the room. If you listen to almost anything by Ed and Louise Warren, so many things have started with a Ouija board. So a Ouija board is sort of like conjuring something to speak with you, whereas tarot and psychic and medium, if the medium was going to conjure something rotten, it would go with her, not you. So that's why you kind of have to have someone that knows what they're doing. But anytime you're sort of, even when we ghost hunt, or we do investigations, if we're doing it in someone's home, we try not to have the people in the home there, because that is almost like sending out an invitation saying, yeah, come on in. We want you to haunt us all the time. You know, if it's someone like I'm in there, they don't recognize me. They will not attach. They will not look for me at a future time. Or if they do, I won't be there. Mm-hmm. But Ouija boards, if you know how to do a Ouija board, like even the symbols in the side, sometimes the symbols in the side, if they come up, that is a spirit asking for mediumship. So it may come through a person that's not a medium or doesn't know what they're doing. Now you really got a situation, okay? If you do use a Ouija board, you have to make sure you know the intent of everyone you're using it with. Everybody has to be on the positive side and ready for the light. But I think people should really avoid Ouija boards just in general, because if you don't know what you're doing, like I said, you could end up with something pretty horrible in your house.
That was a really good answer.
Did it make sense?
Yeah, I want to thank you for that, because that has been on my mind ever since I heard that podcast.
Sometimes I hear myself talking and I think, my words are never as fast as my thoughts. Mm-hmm. And I always think, did you just jump over a big part there? But I guess that was good.
You said that you do tarot readings, so you don't really access that side of things very often, but sometimes they overlap. I was wondering if you could do a tarot reading about some things that have been happening around my house lately. I don't want to describe them too much because I don't want listeners to think that I'm just leading you into what I want to hear.
Okay.
But afterwards, I'll be more than happy to tell you what's going on, because it was a very interesting weekend.
Okay. And just so I know so I know what I'm reading, mm-hmm. Was this are you talking about a paranormal situation?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see. I've never read anything like that. Let me take a shot at it and see what's going on. When you do tarot, the most important thing is asking the question correctly. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you the cards I have up and how I interpret them. Okay?
Okay.
For anybody, there's always a tarot nerd that's sort of listening. So I phrased this question, what is going on in his house? And what I have is the Fool, the Three of Swords, which is really like a broken heart with swords through it, and Strength, which is a female and an animal, and then the Four of Wands. And that I sort of split apart. So basically, that looks pretty simple to me. The broken heart is what's really speaking more to me about the vibe and sort of the feeling in the house. And I'm going to leave that there for 1 second, because it's also a card of, it's very strange. Okay. Something with that. Well, I'm going to jump to the second half and then tell you why.
Okay.
Okay. So the second half goes to the Ace of Pentacles, the Devil card, and the Seven of Cups. Okay. Now, the Devil card is not usually about a devil. Okay. It's usually about what we do to ourselves. But when I match it with the Seven of Cups, this is something very much about delusion, is how I'm going to put it. Things not being seen as they should. And the Ace of Pentacles tells me that it's something earthly. So I would say that something was going on in your house that's not supposed to be there. Now, don't get scared. That doesn't mean that there's something walking around or influencing you. But what I do want to say, it's very interesting between the Fool and the Strength card with your wife falls that broken heart, as though there was misinformation or something that happened that is delusion. I'm going to go again to delusion, illusion, that something happened there of a miscommunication of a different sort. It does show me this all ended up okay. And there's a healing card to it. Here's how I want to say, was there something that happened, that miscommunication between you and your wife?
Yeah, last night.
Okay. Is that what you're talking about, or do I have a different situation here?
No, I think you got a different situation.
I may need more information.
Okay. What the situation was, I was sitting, well, you know what? Maybe you are right. Now that I think I started the story off, and now it kind of makes sense how you would see that. I was sitting at my desk. I was working on last Monday's episode, and I could smell this overwhelming smell of perfume. And I have a young daughter. I just thought, oh my God, she took another bath in perfume. So I get up to go tell her, hey, I think you put on way too much perfume. You need to go wash some of that off, right? Mm-hmm. So I get up and I walk into the living room where my wife is, and she's in there with my daughter. When I walk into their room, I don't smell that anymore. And I said, did one of you guys spray something? It's really loud. And my wife said no. And I said, well, come in here real quick. She came in and she could smell it. It was like a very, like an older woman's perfume. Then we went into my wife's living room again, and the scent just kind of followed us in there. Now, what happened is the house that I live in used to belong to my mom. I bought it before she passed away. While she was, this sounds so weird. I know it's a comedy show, but while she was laying on her deathbed, one of the things that I told her right before she died was, you can always live forever at my house, meaning her house. And this wasn't the first time something like this has happened, but we would go upstairs or something. It would be upstairs. And then I went to pet my cat. And when I pet my cat, I picked it up and it smelled just like the perfume. Then today, my wife left for work and she had the door shut to her living room all day. I opened it up to put some of my kids' stuff in there, and that perfume scent just hit me like a ton of bricks. And that actually used to be my mom's bedroom.
You know what? And that's a very, very simple answer. I don't even think I got that right on the tarot. I'll call on that. But I don't have, except the only thing now, if I put it together backwards. No, I don't. I think it's a different thing. I think I either didn't ask the question right or something. But here is the thing. That is your mom. That's a medium. That's sort of a medium question. Not only is that probably your mom, but that's her letting you know that she's around. That's a very common thing with people that have passed on, or a lot of times smoke. If somebody smoked a pipe, you will smell a pipe, or it'll be like somebody just smoked and went through your house, all that stuff. So that's a pretty basic paranormal thing there. If I look backwards, it's very interesting because is something going on in your house right now, in particular, or in your life right now, that she would be around? Is it a date or a time or something happening there, as something that would be that you'd have her around more than usual?
I'm trying to think. She always was a big fan of Christmas, but we're a couple months out from that.
Right.
And the day she died, that was August 8th. So we're kind of right in between those two dates.
Well, it also could just be she's around more. And here is the other thing. The veil between the worlds is getting much thinner. So that place where people that used to see ghosts when they were little and then didn't anymore are now seeing them again, because the veil between our world and their world is getting much thinner. So your mom may have been around, but now it really seems like she's around. Is that her perfume, though? Because I keep wanting to say it's someone else, that it's not your mom.
To be honest, I couldn't put my finger on it. This sounds weird to say, but you know how it seems like each generation has their own scent of perfume or cologne. And
right.
It's definitely from that era, I guess is the only way I could put it. But I couldn't say, yeah, that definitely smells like my mom. It's just, that's clearly an older woman's perfume is all I can say. But there was, I'm sorry.
Yeah, an older woman that lived there before.
I couldn't really say.
I just have a gut. My gut keeps telling me that it's someone different. That doesn't mean it's anyone dangerous. It could just be someone that this was their house and they're just still making a visit to see what's going on.
Because this house was built in the 1800s. So.
Oh, yeah, you got a haunted house. Yeah, that's very common. The stuff you got there is very common. Nothing dangerous at all either. Just as a rule of thumb for people that have, do probably have haunted houses and stuff like that. Usually, if they move things, anything that's like human spirits, they smell sometimes. Very rarely do they appear. A full body apparition is just not. That takes a lot of energy on their part, and most of them don't have it. Or if objects are moving that weigh less than 2 pounds, that's usually a human spirit and nothing you really have to worry about unless people start getting very depressed or moods start changing. Then you might have something that's kind of stealing your energy or attaching to you or stuff like that. But no, that sounds like somebody that's just used to be her house wandering around.
So one of the things that has plagued the show, I call it the curse of the show. It seems like since the beginning, there has always been something that would go wrong. I recorded the first episode, and I think it took 2 or 3 weeks before I was actually able to even publish it. I recorded the second episode and my computer broke, and it took about 2 weeks for that to happen. Things finally started getting on track, but if I ever promote somebody's coming on, 9 times out of 10, they have to cancel for some reason. All kinds of things like that. It feels like the show is cursed. I actually had a preacher come in and he blessed the show. And
oh, funny. Oh, that's great.
And it even, it happened after that too. So I was wondering if you could look and see if there's anything about the show. I will
look on that because, that's funny. I'm not too big on curses. Okay. Mm-hmm. There's very, very few people that really know what they're doing when they curse someone. And usually I think that's the energy. Like if I tell you I put a curse on you and you believe me, then it's a problem. If you're like, I don't believe in curses, it's usually not. But here's the reading I want to do. I'm going to ask about you and the show because I think that's something subconscious going on.
Okay. I think my monthly co-host, Benny Mack, put it best when he said, Jason, I think you're just a unfortunate individual.
No, and don't let anyone tell you that. Don't even use those words. Here's interesting. Okay. So, first of all, you're over the hump on those things happening. So we're going to change your words. Awesome. All right. And how many episodes have you done?
I think this one will be 165.
Wow. Okay. So probably if you weighed all the episodes that went right, mm-hmm. you might find that to be the way you're looking at it. Okay. But here is the thing also is it's showing me that there's actually a place coming with your podcast that feels, it's going to have more happiness to it. And here's the word I want to use, more risk. Okay. Because I think some of these things happening might have been inside you, first of all, weren't exactly sure what you wanted to expect from it. Okay. And I know that sounds crazy because we all want it to go to number one and make it so we can do our stand-up where we want and, all these things that we want. But sometimes we're not really ready for that. And the card that came up for you is the entertainer card, okay? Were you ready to become an entertainer and embrace that? Now, we know, and I love this card of entertainment because sometimes we're just comics and we do stand-up and then we kind of add something to it. Mm-hmm. And we sort of become more broader. But it was kind of like saying the only card that shows up here negative is the self-sabotage card. Okay. And this can be so deep inside that we don't even realize we're doing this ourselves. Okay. Or we're sending out that vibe. A lot of people, they affect their own computers. if I get mad around my computer, I've broken computers because of how angry I was. Okay. Just the energy, not punching the computer. I have a friend that does that same thing. And even Kira, the other day, our sound stuff didn't work. And she was like, oh, I might have popped it. Sometimes that happens, just because you can do that with your energy. So the same thing with your energy, where you may have actually been kind of blocking this, or being too careful is the phrase I want to use, because I keep wanting to use risk on the other side. Or you may have thought, well, I'm never going to be Mark Maron or so-and-so, or, you know what I mean? I'm just this little guy here doing this.
That was almost a word for word conversation I had off mic with a former guest last week.
Oh, yeah.